sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate sushi or wiener.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Yeah, just like that, we are into the second hour of the Barbecue Central show. We do it live every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. If you are just tuning in, you've missed the first hour. However, good news. We are recording audibly, so you can get it on podcast. First hour tomorrow, second hour on Thursday, and we'll talk about Friday here in a second. This program is originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
I've been getting a couple emails about Bomb City, USA, so I'll look to cover those as time permits here over the next handful of weeks or so. There's a lot of stuff that's been building up in the if a guest can't connect or when I have the next open segment, things that I'm going to get to. It's building. There's a lot of content that stays evergreen that I just haven't got to yet. And it's building. So at some point, we will get there. Paul Rosenberg is running in. I went to the website hoping to buy some swag and was surprised to see you don't sell any. No, I don't.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Paul, you don't need to buy anything from me. You don't need to buy a hat. You don't need to buy a shirt. I'm not here to sell like this stuff. For those listening in podcast, I'm holding up my Barbecue Central show shirt. I have this. It's like my show, and I bought like 30 of them. I went through a whole merch phase 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever it was, 2018. Did a whole logo rebrand. Got a whole bunch of shirts made. Put them out for sale for like no money. You know how many people bought them? Like 7 people. I had to give them away. My job isn't to sell shit to you to make a couple bucks on. All I need for you to do is sit there and continually either A, tune in live on Tuesdays or hit the download button on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. That's all I want from you. Also, if you're in the market for a grill or a rub or some type of service and a sponsor is here offering that service to you, if I can ask, please give any sponsor on this show first consideration. Don't just blindly purchase. If you're looking for sauces or rubs or grills, things like this, please give the sponsors first consideration. If you're going to buy from them and there's no checkout code like some of the companies have, some of them don't, when you call in or when you buy online in the comments section, let them know. Heard this on the Barbecue Central show. Barbecue Central show sent me. Tag them on Instagram and Twitter and tag me too so they know that we're making connections here. Because I can't ever guarantee a sponsor that we're going to increase top line revenue by 30% the minute you come on here. I can't make everybody buy what I want them to buy. They have their own budgets. They have their own needs. But hopefully, over time, you hear the folks that are supporting the show. And when it comes time to buy whatever it is you're looking to buy and a company sponsors the show in that regard, you would give them consideration. That's all I'm asking. You want a stupid trucker hat? Forget it. I'm not going to be shilling to my folks like that. I shill enough as it is. I read the Apple reviews telling me it's 113 minutes worth of commercials and 7 minutes worth of show. I get it. But to that point, I'm also not going to sell merch. It's a pain in the ass, too, as well. I could put it up on Amazon, make like $1 a shirt. You're still going to overpay for a shitty shirt? You want to pay $25 for a shirt that you're going to shrink if you don't pay attention to it in the dryer? I want to have that relationship with my fans. I want you to love me or hate me for me, not because of products or any bullshit.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
We say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. Also, you can watch via YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. And we will update you on the YouTube poll question of the week. When it comes to brisket and ribs, are you fatty and spares, fatty and baby back, lean and spares, or lean and baby back? Currently, 50% of you are saying fatty and spares. That's dropping. By every passing guest, it's dropping. Fatty and baby back is weighing in at 29%, and then half of that is lean and baby back, and half of that is lean and spare. So 7%, 14%, 29%, and 50% making up your 100. I thought more than 50% of us were fatty and spare folks. I mean, that's a real, true barbecue person. Like Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue was saying, hey, if you're a real man, you have all these different cookers. Well, if you're a real barbecue man, you're eating fatty brisket and spare ribs, right? Yes, you are. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 287, taking you back to, again, June 18th, 2013. And as you might recall last week, the Best Moments Show is currently running a first-of-its-kind 4-part mini-series that features me, my sister Kate, and her friend Lindsay, who were in studio at the time. Last week, we talked all about barbecue baby names, and this week, somehow, the conversation moves to bacon everything. If you've never heard of a product called bacon salt, you will be properly introduced to it this coming Friday on the Best Moments Show, amongst many other things. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast feed so you can hear the second of this 4-part series. Might I suggest, if you didn't hear part 1, listening to that first, that will help you set up for what part 2 is going to sound like. Is it mandatory? No. But I would suggest, for continuity of listenership, listen to part 1, then go to part 2. You can subscribe to the show by visiting thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. There's a whole bunch of different ways listed there. And easily, if you don't have a podcast app, or you don't like podcast app, or you are too good for podcast apps, but you have an email address, you can subscribe to the podcast feed through email using that link as well. And don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or segment again that you think has been lost in the archives, email John. Let him know what you'd like to hear. JON@thebbqcentralshow.com. And he'll do his best to meet your expectation. This past weekend, the famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series rolled into Long Beach, California, everybody. When it was all said and done, James Goff of Pork Bombin' Barbecue walked away with the grand championship. Kyle Mazutsky of Your Behind Barbecue took reserve. And as we found out last week, the next famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series event is going to be happening on July 8th in Addison, Illinois. So a little time off before it makes the final run through August. I believe we're in successive weeks starting on July 8th there in the Addison, Illinois location. So if you would like more information, or you would like to see the results from those past events that have already taken place, go to famousdaves.com/All-Star Barbecue Series. You've seen a lot of new things on the Instagram, especially on my feed. What have you seen recently? I put together the Charbroil Edge full-size electric grill. Yes, used it once. If you missed it, all the stuff on my story has since evaporated, but if you have any questions about it, please email me, and I will give you my one-time experience using it. We cooked steaks, and we cooked asparagus. Wanted to see if that thing could get to searing temperatures. And I have to say, shockingly surprised at both what it put on from a color and sear standpoint, and then flavor. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can talk more about that in the next coming weeks. Also, The only person in the country that has the Vita grill currently is this guy right here. And I am using it more and more, surprisingly well at holding temperatures in the oven mode. So remember, you can use 4 burners at will like a normal grill, and then there's that middle that has the thermostatic control to it. So if you want to run it at 250 or 375, whatever, you engage that portion of the grill, and then through the actual thermostatic controller that it has, not LED or electric like some of these other ones have, it will keep that temperature. It is shockingly accurate, and I am not speaking out of school here when I say if you're interested in this cooker, make sure that you are following me on social media. Keep listening to the show for updates because it might be one that becomes available. And the price point is shockingly affordable. Like, it makes you want to second guess if the thing's even going to be around after 2 years. I don't have a grill cover on it. I live in Cleveland. This thing's going to be in the elements. So we will learn together how well this thing holds up. How well is the stainless? How well are the burners? But it runs hotter than my Weber. The Weber is going to be going on Facebook Marketplace here shortly. There's no reason for me to keep it. Vita performing incredibly well. Very happy about it. Also, next week I'll be talking about the timber stove that Tyson Traeger sent me as I get more runs in on that, but I want to make sure I have all of my bearings with me. Getting in late from Houston this past weekend, I was able to assemble most stuff, but not really get to use it before we got here into show. So stay tuned for all of that stuff. Byron Chism is ready to rock here in just 1 second. Before we get to that, I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies, getting you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything on the website has been curated by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself, from the award-winning rubs and sauces, the American-made grills and smokers. You know the popular seasonings and rubs, right? Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak, Little Louie's Seasoned Salt, some of my favorites. All tested on the competition circuit and in backyards. They're also the owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce, it will please everybody. Granny's traditional yet powerful flavor reminds you of why you fell in love with barbecue in the first place. And they're selling cookers. So if you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you don't know what grill you need, call them, please, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop their website at bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. And we are back with the legend, Butt Rub. Right after this, stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back. Leading off the second hour tonight is a man who just might have pioneered the selling of barbecue rubs more than 20 plus years ago. Even the most green live fire cook has surely seen this brand online in stores and anywhere else barbecue rubs are sold. If you aren't familiar with the product, then you are in for a treat tonight. You can also watch his YouTube video that documents his journey to where he is today. We'll talk about that during our time this evening as well. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline. And welcome 2023 Barbecue Hall of Fame inductee Byron Chism to the show. Hey, Byron.
Greg, how you doing, bro?
I am absolutely fabulous. Great to see you. Before we get going tonight, we want to ask you, the YouTube poll question of the week. So I'm asking everybody on YouTube and anywhere else, along with my guests, when it comes to brisket and ribs, are you fatty and spares, fatty and baby back, lean and baby back, or lean and spares? Where do you fall?
I'm for classic spares for sure, which is definitely fattier than the baby backs. As far as brisket, certainly you got to get the point involved. If you can get really good tender flat along with the point all in one slice, now we're talking.
Now we're talking,
money.
Right? No doubt. 50% currently saying fatty and spares is their favorite. 29% fatty and baby back, 14% lean and baby, and 7% are saying lean and spares. What does getting into the Barbecue Hall of Fame mean in a career that has seen you achieve so much?
Well, it's an honor. That word probably gets used a lot, but there's no other way to describe that. It's flattering that you follow your heart and it takes you to great places, and you're in love with barbecue, and you're grateful to be involved with barbecue to make your living. And then your peers say, well, you know what? We think you belong in this group. And it's flattering. I'm just honored. That's the bottom line.
Be honest, sure. Byron. Outside of the first time that you were nominated, did you even know there was such a thing as the Barbecue Hall of Fame?
Oh, I remember when it started. Sure. I mean, it was 12 years ago, something like that. And my first thought was, well, if I ever make that, I'll be dead. I'll be long gone. I don't know. It's complex because there's so many dimensions to barbecue. Yes, I have a rub, and yes, I had some success in competition barbecue, and I don't know. I didn't know if I'd ever be recognized, but I didn't think about that much. I was just doing my thing, and we'll let the path, take us where we need to go. And then last year when I got in the finalists as top 10, I was like, whoa. I mean, it came out of the blue. I was flattered and honored. I don't know. And now this year it happened again. I'm like, you're sitting on pins and needles because it's like, oh, you're top 10. Sit around another week and we'll let you know if you do any more than that. And it's just like, it's not like you're running for office, you can go campaign or you just sit there and go, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Who's even voting for me? I don't know these people, whatever. I don't know.
Would you prefer to not know? Would you prefer there not be a finalist and then you're just contacted that, hey, you made it into the Barbecue Hall of Fame this year?
I don't think there's a better way to do it. I think they've all put a serious effort into it, and they really talked about it. And the fact that I made the cut, I'm just honored and flattered. I don't really know what went on in the communication circle between the voters and stuff, but I'm not sure there's a better way to do it. Like I said, though, it's an awkward week. It's like, it was really a huge thing for me. And I think that anybody that's nominated or is a part of this, they would tell you the same thing. It's big, and I'm really grateful.
Before all the barbecue success, a younger Byron Chism was quite a passionate motocross rider. How good could you have been had you decided that was the path?
I was just tapping into the rider I always wanted to be. I really was. It took a while for me to mature enough to be, to figure out how to practice, to figure out how to prepare, learn all the lessons to get strong and steady and consistent. I was just tapping into that, but I knew that it was a high school sport. My dad told me, said, this is junior high and high school sport. If you want to race after high school, well, you'll need a job that pays you good enough to where you can do it. He said, if you want to go to college, your mom and I are here to support you and do that. So I knew, I kind of knew all along it was to have been a professional in that field at that time really took a lot of money. I mean, I would have needed a truck, a bunch of bikes, a full-time mechanic. I mean, we were middle class, and I was just grateful that I could race at all because it's not an inexpensive sport. So it all happened like it was supposed to. And even if I would have been a professional motocrosser, and even if I was good, it was a short career. Yeah. And I'm glad I got my education, because those things you have the rest of your life, and you can use them tools.
I don't know anything about motocross. I have a couple daughters that are pretty high level athletes, so I'm pretty versed in travel softball and travel volleyball life. One of them went on to play in college. And in that realm, you're quickly identified as somebody that can make it into that next level of college or not. From a motocross standpoint, is it similar? Could you, if you were an elite rider, would somebody notice that from like KTM or Honda and say, hey, we want to sponsor you, whatever you need, we'll write the ticket and you can have your team?
That's true. But to get to the point where they recognize you, you have to be a privateer. To be a privateer, that means you go on the professional circuit on your own dime. And if you've made some performances that caught people's attention, that's how you get the factory riding. But you're not going to get it from an amateur level. You know, they don't have scouts out there looking for riders like that. So you pretty much have to financially get your way to the privateer level. And a lot of the people I raced with, they were really good. I mean, but none of us really made it to the pros. And that's what I like about barbecue. When I started competing in barbecue, all of a sudden I'm competing against the best guys around. I'm like, woo! I made it to the elite level in something. You know? So
your journey into the rub game was a little different than what you see in more recent times. In other words, teams that see success or that dominate for some amount of time will then come out with the product after the success that they've had on the competition circuit. You had the product and then turned it into a very successful competition cooking career. Do you think it would have been possible to stay out of the contest and still be as successful as you are now with the rub business?
I think the competition barbecue really, really helped me, because I got out. It gave me an avenue to promote it. It gave me a channel to introduce it to people. And then when the Food Network started coming around and you know, we got some television exposure, that really helped. So, and also I think the credentials, if you are my competition in the grocery industry at the time I started and getting some distribution in grocery stores, were all big companies. They weren't created by someone at the grassroots level, like mine was, and like a lot of people's are now. My competition was these big old conglomerates. So I separated myself from the pack by being a grassroots competition barbecue champion, created seasoning. And I think people, they're like, yeah, you know, this is kind of the real stuff, you know? So it helped me a lot. I was grateful for that. There was no flow chart. You know, nobody made a living from a barbecue season when I started this. And it just seemed to work. When I created it, I was like, how do I reach the most amount of barbecue people? Well, hey, they got these barbecue events. Well, I always cooked on the weekends. I never could go away to these things. So when I started marketing Butt Rub, it was that time where I'm like, how do I reach the most amount of barbecue people? And that's why I started going to the circuit. And that's when I realized that, hey, man, if I was one of these guys winning trophies, that would be really good for business. So that's what motivated me. And I loved it. It's been a gift to me to be able to find competition barbecue, because I could not get enough. I mean, the open road, being free to compete and being excited and practicing and just, there was no flow chart for being a champion. You just had to figure it out. You know, that was before the classes, that there weren't really any books to speak of for competition. There was no YouTube videos, so you just had to go out there and figure it out. And I was kind of cut out for that, and it worked out pretty good.
Did you frequent barbecueforum.com?
I was.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. That was great. Connecting cooks from all over that a lot of us maybe have met, but we had that like fraternity of being barbecue guys and girls. And we shared a lot and we cut up a lot, and sometimes we argued, but it was beautiful. It was a milestone for a barbecue, because like I said, it was a way to connect us all together. And yeah, I love being on the Barbecue Forum.
How important getting buttrub.com? Was it easy to get? Did you have to buy it off of somebody? I mean, I look at buttrub.com and you put that in the search bar. I mean, who knows what you're going to get?
Oh my gosh. It was so easy. We were on the ground floor, man. It cost me $100 to get buttrub.com where it's set up where people could order from it. $50 went to my programmer and $50 went to the domain site. And so we just were we were on the front row of all that, and it was available. And yeah, you would think somebody somewhere might have wanted to use that, but it was a piece of cake, actually.
As I look through what you offer on buttrub.com, you obviously have the flagship rub in a bunch of different sizes. There's a barbecue sauce that when we were sound checking earlier today, you said is just more recently released. It's not something that's as old as the rub. You have like a Cajun rub or something like that, and then some honey. But as somebody who has made a really good living on seasoning, how come you don't have like 20 products or 25 products to offer?
Well, Bluebell vanilla outsells all the other Bluebells, 20-1. So I honed in on what was working, and it was just something I created, and my marketing was Little Butt Rub makes everything better. So I don't know if that makes everything better, then why don't I need another seasoning? I think we were having so much success with that one product that all I saw was stores that we weren't in. I didn't think that spending time and resources on other products was to my benefit, because I knew if I got butt rub in a store, it would be successful. No matter what part of the country, wherever we put it, it was rolling. So I'm like, I've got a star here. So why go back to creating other things that may or may not be successful? I had a winner. So that's why I didn't even have a sauce for a long time. My original products was a baked beans, a sauce, and a rub. And it was the butt rub that took off. And I'm like, okay, well, we don't make the beans in, and the sauce, it's too expensive to make anyway. And it breaks. I get pallets back and it's got sauce all over the pallet, and who wants to mess with that? So the butt rub, I'm like, you go with what's working. And so that's how I become a butt rub specialist. Now, could I come up with other variations? I guess I can, but we're still getting in these stores with this product, and we're getting in food service, and we're using it for a lot of other applications, and it's got a lot. I haven't reached a peak of, well, what else we're going to do with this? It's still 26 years later, we're still growing in our percentage of stores and our percentage of sales. So I'm just rolling with until it stops working. I don't think I need to reinvent too much. Really.
If you look at the past 26 years, what are the two most important things over that span that happened in the evolution of butt rub?
Man, that's a good question. It's really been more of a brick by brick thing. Steady. I never had partners. I never had an investment group. I learned to trust my instincts. I think that's probably the most important thing I ever did. I found this path, and I learned. I trust God, and God gives me intuition, and I follow my intuition. So I've just been following that path, and steady. That's the thing. More stores. But I didn't ever want to make a deal with somebody that if they bailed out on me, I would be. I never put all my eggs in a basket that could hurt me. So we spread it out and just grew steadily. So I'd say learn to trust my instincts is one. Two, and it's nothing I did, but the barbecue world, I don't know, when I was getting into it, I guess we were on the tarmac, and then over the years it started going down, and next thing you know, it's in the air. So I guess I got in really, really early into the barbecue boom. And I don't know that it's still growing. It's amazing how big this thing's gotten. So it's not something I did, but it's just, I think, the biggest factor in the fact that we've been able to ride this big wave of barbecue.
Does anyone sell more rub than you?
We've been consistently in the grocery business. We've been consistently in the top 3 for a long time. There's quarters where you add butt rub. Butt rub is one product but with different sizes. You add that up. We've been in lead position many times the last couple of years. So I think, and that's the pipeline, the grocery stores. I mean, I knew when I started, I'm like, this will be a part-time job if I don't get in the grocery stores. And that was before they were in the hardware stores. That was before internet orders were like they are now. So I knew I had to be in the grocery stores, and it was almost impossible, but we were able to make that happen somehow. And, you start getting a little success, and then people join in with you. And then, the success rewards you by offering you new opportunities. And so we just kind of kept climbing and riding that wave. So it's an unlikely success story. And that's what I love about the documentary. Kind of, once you watch it, it's like, dang, man, how did they pull that off? I don't know. But it's been a gift for sure.
Towards the end of that documentary, it states that over the life of business, Butt Rub has sold $50 million in top line there. That's a big number. You ever been approached?
That's a big number. In the first few years, I think the first year was like $1,200. So
you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, we doubled every year for a long time. That's true. It's been a steady climb. Our sales chart looks like a nice staircase. I call it the stairway to heaven. But slow and steady. It's really not been anything. It's just been a steady climb, and I guess I'm grateful for that. It's been more manageable, and I've had the staff around. I hadn't been shorthanded, or we didn't struggle to meet orders. We've had good alliances with our co-packers. It's been a manageable thing, and I think I would prefer the way, if I had to choose, I think we did the right thing. A lot of companies now, they get investment groups and they just go for it, and they're piling money into marketing, and they're rolling the dice. It's like, well, we think this is going to make it, but we don't know for sure if it will. And a lot of them disappear because they come in with a blaze of glory, and then you don't see them again.
So let's look at that from a different perspective. If the life of the product has generated somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 million, have you been approached 1 or 10 times by companies saying, hey, let me stroke you this $35 million check, you walk away, and we're going to take over Butt Rub?
There have been people that are interested in that, but I haven't pursued that really seriously at this point. But I think that's the natural life cycle of a product. You get it to a certain point, and you've done all the test marketing and R&D for a really major company. So you're of value to them. You've got a following. You've proved that you've got something marketable. I mean, if a little guy like me can have a consistent growth over the years and sales, yeah, I might be a product that, some big company would look into. But I haven't really looked for that. There'll be a time in my life where that will be the way to go. But we're not there yet.
Where can people watch the documentary?
Well, it's YouTube. It's called BBQ Dreams, Barbecue Dreams, the Butt Rub Story. And it's also the link on buttrub.com on the homepage. Now on Facebook, we've got the Butt Rub Club, and that has the links also. And that's how we communicate with our users about everything Butt Rub and so forth.
A barbecue legend, a rub pioneer, Byron Chism joining us here on the show, and a 2023 Barbecue Hall of Famer, buttrub.com, the website, of course. Byron, appreciate the story, the look back here, and some of that sage wisdom as you pass it along to folks considering getting into that rub business. Appreciate the first interview, and let's do it again soon.
That sounds great, Greg. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Byron Chism right there. Your 2023 Barbecue Hall of Fame class member, amongst the others that made it in this year, and a pioneer of selling rub. And like I had mentioned in the interview, somebody that did it in reverse than how you see it now. Not successful first in competition and then bringing a product to market. Had the product. By the way, we didn't get into it then. We probably talked about it in a subsequent interview, but a classically trained chef, went to culinary school, worked in kitchens, all that, and then devised the butt rub and had this great product. Went to competitions and then decided, hey, like he said, maybe I should cook at this stuff too. Then became a really good cook. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. Daniel Vaughn is ready to go. So why make him wait? We won't. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Byron Chism for joining us last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. If you're a beginner, if you're a professional, it doesn't matter. It's just a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Helping me close the show tonight, the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine. You also see him on this show quarterly throughout the year as we talk about things happening in Texas and the barbecue world in general. I am, of course, talking about our good pal and Buckeye, Daniel Vaughn. Daniel?
I'm here in a Days Inn in Lexington, Tennessee, and who knows if there's Wi-Fi issue. I have no idea.
What's going on in Lexington, Tennessee?
Well, they're going to be cooking whole hog at B.E. Scott's Barbecue tomorrow morning. I'll be out there checking out their West Tennessee style whole hog. Zach Parker has been running the place for quite a while now, and yeah, he makes a mean whole hog. I was actually at his house for dinner, trying some of the whole hog that came off the pit earlier today. It's still delicious.
So we appreciate you traveling and doing the show at the same time here and making your quarterly visit, certainly. I wanted to start tonight with the YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. When it comes to brisket and ribs, are you fatty and spares, fatty and baby back, lean and baby back, or lean and spares?
I am lean and spares.
Really? Lean?
Yes.
I don't believe that for 1 second. Why are you lying on the show? I thought we were courageous and honest.
We are courageous and honest.
Wow.
And here's the thing is, first off, both when I'm evaluating barbecue, when I'm evaluating a brisket, the lean tells me a whole lot more about how well you can cook than the fatty side does. And the spare ribs, that shouldn't even be part of the poll question. I mean, who's going to choose baby backs when there's the possibility of a spare? We got all that thick, juicy meat, and then you've got the rib tip included. I mean, that rib tip, like that part you pull off the very top of the very end of the rib tip, that is my favorite bite of rib. Whether it's spare or whatever, that is the best bite of rib to me, and you can't get that on a baby back.
50% of the voting public tonight saying fatty and spares. That's where I'm living as well. Fatty and baby back is taking 29%, and lean and baby back taking 14%. Lean and spares are taking 7%. And you're adding to that, by the way, because I know you didn't vote on YouTube, but we don't question people's choices. We're just asking questions here tonight. So let's start here this evening, and it's not...
Well, hold on, though.
Go ahead.
But in that poll, like, I think just people who love barbecue and who consume barbecue content like this are taught that they're supposed to love fatty more than anything else, right? And I love a great bite of fatty brisket.
I don't think that's not true.
How much of it can you really eat?
I don't know how you can
eat a lot more lean brisket.
Why? I don't know how you can come to the conclusion that people think that they have to like fatty. I don't believe that. I think if the lean, now we're getting into, preface everything by personal opinion here. A perfectly cooked slice of fatty and a perfectly cooked slice of lean, to me, fatty wins all day long. It's everything I want, right? It's aesthetically more pleasing. It's got all the mouthfeels that I like, and the taste I find to be better. Again, I was at Truth Barbecue for the second time in my life last week.
I saw the photos.
Yes,
they look great.
Great photo, and I asked for fatty, but 2 of those slices had both. It was like right where the junction must have been. So I had the top was fatty, the bottom was a lean, and so I was able to.
Was it possibly 4th slice?
Definitely not the 4th slice. I asked for it, and the guy looked like he was going to stab me right in the eyeball with his knife. And so I was able to evaluate, right? And I still like a best cooked piece of fatty over lean. But that's just me.
Well, now that lean part that you're talking about underneath the fatty, like that's the worst part of the brisket at all. Like, I mean, that's just, it's basically sacrificial. When I say lean, I'm talking about the front end of the brisket with the fat cap on top. And of course, like a perfectly cooked slice that's juicy and tender and all that. With the fat cap, with all the seasoning and the smoke, and to me, that's the perfect combination.
All right, so we agree to disagree, and guess what? We're allowed to do that on the show. Of course, we can agree or disagree and still be friends, no problem. I wanted to start tonight by saying, or having you talk a little bit about the passing of a few notable barbecue folks here over the last 2 weeks, really. Leanne Miller passes away suddenly middle of last week, and then the week and a half before that, a guy who has appeared many times on the show, kind of as your counterpoint folk at San Antonio Express News, Chuck Blount, the sports/barbecue writer there, and he passed away suddenly as well. If we take somebody that kind of sits in your editorial chair there with Chuck, what do you know about him, and how do you feel he expressed Texas barbecue the way he did?
Yeah, well, I know he was a guy with a true love for barbecue, a true love for San Antonio barbecue as well, which is what he covered. Both of their deaths just so shocking, so sudden. Chuck was posting photos of really just like having fun with his family, and then the next thing he saw was his wife explaining that he had something that he like a health issue that he was not going to recover from, and it was really just came out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, he was always just joyful about barbecue too. He really loved it. He didn't so much love the critiquing part, I think, as much as others. Really just enjoyed eating and covering barbecue in San Antonio, and really, even further outside of that. But San Antonio was his beat, and I think he knew it better than anybody.
He was consistently on the show doubling down on this success of the smoked burger at barbecue restaurants, and how, where some had them already, he was just adamant that everybody and their mother was going to be adding it onto their menu, because not only were they delicious, they were going to be a revenue producer. They didn't cost a lot. You could use whatever was being left over from you trimming up some of the other beef. All these things made sense to him, and it was going to be like the next biggest thing. Still hasn't really caught on from what I understand, although some places still continue to have them. Is that something that you see happening at some point, or is it just wishful thinking on Chuck's part?
Oh, I don't think it's wishful thinking at all. I think you're maybe ahead of yourself there saying that it hasn't happened. It certainly has in Texas. Seeing a smash burger or a smoked burger is now really commonplace. And it's become, not surprising to me. I wrote an article basically saying that as well, that like if you have all this trim left over and you usually would make sausage with it, like traditionally, if you don't maybe have the capability to make sausage or the time or just don't have the labor to produce sausage of your own, then the next best place for it to go is in burgers. Like, for God's sake, don't throw it away. If you spent all that money already on the brisket, like, use it for something. So I have seen quite a few. I mean, I'm tempted by smash burgers constantly because they just look delicious, and it's not barbecue. And if I've been eating, 4 or 5 places, that smash burger looks tempting.
The other person is Leanne Miller, of course, the founder of the barbecue, and I think many would consider her to be a force of nature to some degree, very firm in her beliefs, and very groundbreaking in an industry that is dominated by males and perhaps some very stereotypical males. She is one that was really looking to break the mold. A, but B, producing some of the best barbecue in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Her and Allie Clem, the only wife and wife team that I knew to own a barbecue joint in Texas. When I wrote about her and wrote about her life here recently, after her shocking death, I really reflected on the fact that she was thrust into owning this barbecue joint. She never really had planned to own it. She wanted to be the money behind her brother's place, and basically to recoup the business after she famously fired her brother. She got much more involved in the business. She hired John Lewis. Her and Allie both became a lot more involved in the business. And then John Lewis moved on to Charleston years ago, and it's really been Allie and Leanne who's been running it in Austin and routinely making best of lists, whether it's locally or statewide or across the country. So La Barbecue has really just been an incredible place for a long time. And it's just a couple of years ago that they finally found their forever home, their brick and mortar that they've got now on Cesar Chavez. And so it really just seemed like they had finally gotten this foundation of running the barbecue joint that they had always wanted to run, since opening La Barbecue. And, then she's just gone. Just died suddenly, really, while her and Allie were together preparing for an event. They were preparing food together for an event that they had that evening. And Allie said she just, she collapsed and they needed to call the ambulance immediately. And, it's a really, it was shocking is the word that I keep coming up with, because it was truly a shock when I heard about it.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you can look through the immediate lineage of this family and see shocking deaths all over the place. Leanne, her brother died, is it a year ago? Maybe a little longer than that, maybe not even. And then was there another brother too that has passed away as well?
No. So Wayne Miller is still around. He's running Louis Miller Barbecue in Taylor. So Leanne passed away at 51, and it was 18 months ago that John, her brother, died at 52. Their father, Bobby, he was 69, but went to bed very much healthy and had a heart attack and died in his sleep, before he ever got to retire from the business. And so, it is a family, a barbecue family, very, notable statewide. And, the fact that they've seen so much tragedy is, it's tough.
She had quite a secondary career going as a photographer.
Yeah. So she had told me a story when I interviewed her way back in, I think it was 2013 or 2015, about the fact that she went into her photography career, basically went to, left Taylor, Texas, where Louis Miller was, right near Austin, and went out to California, went to photography school there, then moved to New York to start a photography career. And in doing so, got her stopped by the Texas Monthly office while she was back in town in Taylor, stopped in Texas Monthly's office in Austin to ask them if they needed any work done, needed any photography work. And that ended up being her first assignment, was from her essentially cold calling them. And, she went on to have, over a dozen covers for Texas Monthly. And she said in the 2008 barbecue issue, that was her shot on the cover. And she went to all the top 5 barbecue joints to do all of those shoots as well. So those famous photos of Tootsie and Carrie Bexley at Snow's Barbecue, and they made #1 sort of out of nowhere. Those were photos that she took. And photos of Louis Miller, photos of her father, she took for that issue as well. So it was a really personal assignment for her as well.
Changing gears up a little bit, a super fan of this show, someone I have actually been following in 2023 for the Barbecue Central show, Podumentary. His name is Joe Martinez, and he's the owner and pitmaster over at Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue in El Paso, Texas. You were out there recently. Just by chance you were hearing about it? Or, I mean, I'm now, since I've been in Houston a bunch of times here since November, I'm beginning to understand the greatness, and I say greatness as in width and mileage that this great state has. I was telling somebody, hey, if you're in Austin, you don't want to wait in line for 5 or 6 hours at this, just drive out to El Paso and you can not wait in line over there. And like, well, yeah, what's a 12-hour car ride to go out to El Paso? So I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But how do you catch wind of Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue?
Well, honestly, I heard about Smoking Joe's from the owner of Desert Oak Barbecue. So they're Desert Oak Barbecue's there in El Paso, and Richard Funk runs that with his wife. And Richard is neighbors with Joe in El Paso. They live in the same neighborhood. And when Joe was trying to understand the barbecue business itself, he went to work at Desert Oak for a few weeks anyway, to sort of understand how the scheduling worked and how the cook schedule worked and all that before he opened Smoking Joe's. And so it was Richard who told me about Smoking Joe's first off. And I just had to go try out that smoked burger that he had on the menu. It was fantastic.
Your opinion on the food at first blush?
As soon as I got the tray, I knew this was going to be a good one. Like the ribs were just had that glaze on them, big spare ribs, and had a glaze on them that was just like sparkling in the sunlight. It was pretty hot out there. It was a warm day in El Paso, and not a whole lot of shade out there in that food truck park. But you can drive through the beer barn right next door if you need something to go. And yeah, the sides, he does this Texas chili, which he put beans in, which in Texas, like calling it chili and putting beans in it causes an argument every time.
Yeah.
And he made a really great one. But yeah, the ribs, the brisket, I mean, it was the best bite of brisket that I've had in El Paso. For any barbecue joints that are out there. It was really spot on that day. And so I wrote about the place and really just trying to get more folks to go there, because he had said that he had quite a bit of business at 11 o'clock when he opened, but when I got there at noon, I was the only customer, and that's a shame for a place of that quality.
Is his specific location a hurt or a help to him in the truck park?
Well, I mean, here's the thing about El Paso is like the barbecue culture in El Paso is not it's not developed quite the way it is in Houston, Austin, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Dallas, all those, right? So like suffering for your barbecue is not really something El Pasoans are willing to do. So being in a food truck park with some picnic tables and basically having to eat in the sun or take it to go, I think it is a bit of a detriment to his business. I think if he were to make a jump to go into a building, then that would be better for him. But that's obvious, right? I mean, being in a restaurant is better for most any barbecue business, but that's a big jump when you're just purchased a food truck and you purchased your 1,000-gallon smoker that you've got on a separate truck right next to it. So he's got a lot invested in that place.
He's in El Paso. He potentially could be poised to be barbecue king of El Paso. I mean, you said yourself the food is great. What if he pulled up stakes and drove to Dallas or Fort Worth or one of these other within Texas barbecue meccas or strongholds? Could he see the same amount of success, or would he be watered down?
Well, I mean, obviously, any barbecue business that opens up in any of those cities is going to be watered down to a point. I mean, there's just so many options. You've got to find a neighborhood that's thirsty for it, right? That is underserved, because these days there are just so many options. I think he's smart to stay out in El Paso.
So as I had mentioned earlier, I was at Truth Barbecue. First time I went, hour and a half wait. That was pushing my limit, right? I mean, I've often said on the show, I wait for nothing. But I waited an hour and a half.
You went incognito, huh?
No. I went. First time, hour and a half. Got the food. Got everything. It was great. So I felt rewarded. And then when we got into Houston Wednesday, it was later. I pulled in that parking lot at 3:00. No line. Jumped in. Now, where do we suffer? We're out of ribs. We're out of like everything except brisket and turkey. Good news. All we wanted was brisket and turkey, really, knowing going in at 3:00 there's going to be some potential issues with proteins. All of the desserts were there. I got a gallon of banana pudding. My wife got the chocolate cake.
Very
you know,
important.
all the desserts are great, right? So
Yes.
Is there a strategy that you would offer folks that aren't interested in waiting lines? How to circumvent that? Is it showing up later? Are you running the risk of selling out? Is it just going to the not as well-known place 2 blocks over? What do you tell people?
Well, I mean, first off, whether it's worthwhile to stand in that line is really up to each individual, right? So you said you waited an hour and a half in line at Truth, and the fact that you were going back means that hour and a half was worth it to you. Like, it was worth returning. Now, you didn't have to do it again, but you were, I assume, willing to if you went back.
Well, if there was a line, we were gonna either like call in to get curbs. I was not waiting again, but just luckily happened there was no line.
Okay.
Now, in my non-defense, Sunday, was that a 5-hour line wrapping around for Father's Day? Was that a 6-hour line? Like, what the hell? And it was 187 degrees.
Yeah, it's like for Mother's Day, right? I saw a lot of places advertising like, please just come in on Saturday. It's going to be so much easier. Just eat your Mother's Day brunch on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like, eat your Father's Day barbecue on Saturday. And that's actually what I did. I was in Amarillo at the time. And so we had some barbecue there on Saturday and went to a steakhouse as well. So yeah, we had a good time there, but yeah, I think you're right that there is a certain strategy there, as long as you're willing to do without some of the cuts that they offer, is to go in at 2 or 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock might be pushing it for some places, but sneaking in at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, I mean, why not give it a try? Especially if you're there on a weekday. I mean, if you go into Austin at and you want to go to Franklin Barbecue, like, don't go. It's Saturday at 6 a.m. Go try it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday at 1:30 in the afternoon, and chances are you can just walk right in the door and maybe stand behind 15 people and get your barbecue. Now, again, you might be out of ribs, but these places in Texas, especially those that are so well known for their brisket, like Truth and Franklin, those are the things that's the thing they do not want to run out of until they have to close the doors, right? And so a place like Truth is going to have brisket. That's going to be the last thing they sell out of. Same with Franklin and many of the other big names out there. So if it's brisket that you're after, that is a great strategy. Same thing with Cadillac Barbecue in Dallas. It's really, you got to get there early. They open at 10:30, and you've got to get there early if you want their specials, because their specials are going to be gone by that 1:30 or 2 o'clock mark. But chances are they're still going to have, some of the basics, and you're still going to get a great meal. And, hate to break it to everybody, but you don't need 4 meats every time.
Yeah, right. I mean, push back from the table a little bit there, Porky, and enjoy, as I said in a Twitter post to somebody, I was willing to sacrifice getting something of everything for getting a few things that I really wanted, and that's what they had at Truth, so it was a successful time back.
And you got to really enjoy your brisket, right? And your turkey. You didn't have to be like, oh, I got to save a little because I got the burnt ends over here. I got the ribs here. I got this link of sausage that needs attention. You just get to enjoy what's in front of you.
And as a bonus, just walking out of the back was Leonard Botello himself. So I'm able to say, hey, Len, come over here. You remember me? And I think he said he did, but I doubt he did. And, what a great guy, very open. We had,
I'm
5
sure
or 10 minutes of conversation.
Voice.
I guess I had the shirt on, so I was hoping I had made a little bit of an impression since he was on the show, like a handful of months ago. But I never assume anybody knows me. And we had a great conversation. He's like, hey, if you're in for a couple more days, give me a shout. We'll have a couple beers, whatever. And, he was very engaging, and obviously it was a very busy and very hot day. So I was happy to just meet him. He makes me look like a big shot in front of my wife, who's sitting there and going, wow, you actually know this guy that you said you knew. So, I come out looking like a winner. Everybody wins. We got brisket. We got turkey. What can I tell you? Daniel Vaughn is joining us. Yes, go ahead. Where did you all go out for a beer? Kidding? I don't go out with anybody. I was like, hey, thanks. No way. I got we have when we go to Houston. There are some more pressing issues to stay on task with, and so
there's an itinerary.
Yes, unfortunately. So, but we were happy to stop back in there and continue to have good barbecue. I look forward to having another stop there when we go back, and we'll see if we can't make it 3 for 3. I hope you have some great whole hog tomorrow as you do your whole hog run there.
I know it's going to be.
You are a valued quarterly member of our team here on the show, and I can't wait until the next time we revisit and talk nonsense and live fire technology.
Yes, we'll get the microphone taken care of before then.
All right, sounds good. Daniel, always appreciate the time.
All right, great talking to you.
You too. Daniel Vaughn right there, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor, tmbbq.com. If you are looking to get caught up on the Leanne Miller passing and you'd like to hear a little bit more of insight from Daniel Vaughn on that, then go ahead and read his latest article. Again, that's tmbbq.com. And that is going to do it for us tonight. Kind of got lost in our conversation there, so we're a little over, but we'll wrap it up right now. All the way back in the first hour, it was Mac Plummer from Loco Cookers, lococookers.com, talking about that 36-inch flat-top griddle. And then we had Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com talking about the business of barbecue. And then in the second hour, we let off with a legend, Byron Chism, buttrub.com, his website. And closing it out with quarterly guest Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly, tmbbq.com. Big show planned for you next week. It's the 4th Tuesday, so we got the embedded correspondence. We got Derek Riches making his return, amongst others, so stay tuned for that. I will also start to share with you what the middle of July is going to look like with the show. Not sure exactly what the logistics are going to be. That could be a best of show on the 11th, and then it could be a on remote show on the 18th. Not sure. We got to figure out some technological logistics there, but I'll keep you up to speed on programming notes. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Steve, the Cookout Coach, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.